Hello, friends and folks, and welcome back to Neutral Game, your newbie-friendly fighting game podcast. I'm Six Datmar from Scanline Media,
And I'm Real Soviet Bear. Hello.
and we're delving into 2021 now. It's a new year. Spring has sprung? No, it's still winter. Um, but we're moving on, and what better time when moving on than to look backward and take some lessons from what we've just been through. And you may be thinking, oh God, are we going to talk a bunch about like the awful year that was 2020? No, we're going to talk about December, or I should say Deckcember.
Thank you for pronouncing it properly. A lot of people were like, it's Deckember, but no, I invented the word. So I say how it goes, it's Deckcember. And you can't stop me.
Yeah. Deckember would be like if it was Dickensian, I think.
Maybe.
So we've done a couple of these podcasts, these Deckcember aftermath podcasts, but people may not have listened to those. Miodrag, what is the deal with Deckcember?
Okay, so a few years ago, I wanted to do a month of fighting games on my Twitch channel where we try as many fighting games as we can, and we did. I think this is the third one so far that we're doing since we skipped a year, but the idea was initially, okay, let's take games that have, online multiplayer, and we did, the Blaze Blues, the Tekkens, and all that jazz that you could play with viewers. And then the next one, we had Parsec at our disposal, so that meant we could basically play anything that was on PC, whether it had online play or not, including old games. And we did a bunch of that. You and I went through Kensei the Sacred Fist. I think that's the only one I remember, even though we went through other janky PlayStation 1 games.
Evil Zone.
Evil Zone, yes. Evil Zone was really good. But the issue with Parsec was that it gave a unfair advantage to me as the host because I had no latency, whereas other people had latency, so it wasn't ideal. So this year, we decided to go with Fightcade specifically because that removed the issue of people having lag with Parsec and weird controller issues that Parsec seems to have when people keep connecting and disconnecting. Also avoid the issue of people needing to buy specific games to play, and us relying on games with good netcode. So we just went with Fightcade, which has existed for a while, and kind of solved both issues of people needing to obtain games and people being able to easily drop in and out and having lag.
And you're specifically using Fightcade 2, which I remember last time I was going heavy into Fightcade was sort of when Fightcade 2 was pretty new. And, I was mostly playing with you at the time. And our discovery at that time, our conclusion was that Fightcade 2 was broken, and we just went back to the original Fightcade. But seems like Fightcade 2 has come a long way since then.
Yeah, Fightcade 2 is a significant improvement. We didn't really have that many technical issues, although 2 days before I needed to set everything up, for some reason an update went halfway and completely broke for me, as these things usually happen when you plan something. But that got fixed, and it was pretty easy to set up. I think the biggest hurdle for people was figuring out which folder games go into, because it is an emulator. You need to get ROMs, and you need to put games in specific folders. And how Fightcade 2 works is it basically uses different emulators for different games. So you have Final Burn Neo as the main thing, but for Super Nintendo and Mega Drive games, and it even has Master System game support. It uses different emulators and adds netplay to them. Some things seem to work better than others. Arcade stuff seems to have very good proper rollback online play, whereas stuff like Super Nintendo games, we tried Killer Instinct, seems to have noticeable latency, and when we tried a Master System game, we would just get desyncs and crashes. So there's still ways to go, but as far as arcade games go, at least, it's working pretty fine. And
That's good.
how it works is basically you can join up to 3 lobbies. You can join more lobbies if you play through Patreon, and you can even make private lobbies. But it's like $20 or something, which is a bit too steep of an ask for me. But uh, basically, you can enter any lobby for any game through a search bar. They have a massive database, and there you'll have other people who are in the same lobby for the same game, and they can challenge each other. If it's a ranked game, you can challenge in a more structured format, like first, 2, 3, and all the way up to 10.
Hmm.
If it doesn't have ranked for the lobby, then you can just challenge people to regular matches. You can join in and spectate other matches that are going on. So it's pretty simple, pretty functional.
Excellent. I'm glad they finally sort of got it to a better state, because the original Fightcade, which yeah at that time we were going back to because it worked when Fightcade 2 wasn't, um, is very low tech. um, and I think some of the when I used Fightcade 2, like some of the changes, especially I think the thing that really makes the big difference is the emulator switching is a really amazing um, development that makes it able to support a lot more games.
Yeah, and just also kind of clarify, even though Fightcade is primarily there for fighting games, it does support, non-fighting games. So if you want to
Mm-hmm.
play, I don't know, Captain Commando or Calyx and Dinosaurs, like beat 'em ups, you can.
Mm-hmm. You want to play some Metal Slug? They've got your back.
Yeah, yep, yes you can, and that's because it's an arcade game. It's pretty functional.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about how the different setups. So how did like using Fightcade make Deckember run differently this year?
So what we did before when we kind of had to plan stuff in advance was I had to opt in, or people had to opt in advance to play something. So, I tell people, hey, today we're doing this game, so make sure you buy it or install it, or make sure you have Parsec, and then I would have to set aside time, to verify that everything was working, because if you get an older game, even if it says it has net play, you still need to test it with people to see if it actually has like reasonable net play or not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're playing with Parsec, you need to make sure that the person connecting to you actually works, because maybe their gamepad will just interact weirdly and not register inputs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but with this, when I still announce games in advance for every day, so people, if they want to practice or prepare, they could. Um, but the idea was, instead of dedicating specific slots for specific games, I would say, okay, on this day, these are the games we're doing, and you can challenge me at any point in any game. So that led to me bouncing around between games, but it also let people, if they can only tune in for the second half of the stream, they don't have to worry about missing out on one of the 2 games. Instead, they can be like, okay, these are all the games today, and I can join in on any of them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and also let viewers join in more easily, because if you jump on the stream, like not everybody's in Discord, not everybody follows my Twitter. If you tune on the stream and you see, I'm playing, I don't know, Street Fighter Alpha 3, you can just, fire up Fightcade, get the game quickly, and just challenge me. Whereas if I was playing, say, Tekken 7 and they don't have it installed and they have to install it, maybe it won't install by the end of the stream and so on. So it was very drop-in friendly, and I think for
Mm-hmm.
people it was also much easier to jump in and out that way. And the only really drawback was on my end, because if I had um, people who only wanted to play one game, and for example, somebody only wants to play Mortal Kombat and somebody else only wants to play, I don't know, Vampire Savior, then they get warmed up, they get into the game, but I have to change on a dime between
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Kombat inputs and Vampire Savior inputs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's just a bit like as a streaming setup, it's a little tricky just because things were actually a little were kind of too convenient.
Yeah, yeah. And but it was easily all captured and having issues capturing. I think the only time I had issues was because different games have different aspect ratios.
Mm-hmm.
I would need to, as the game loads, I would need to quickly resize it before my character timer runs out. And if people were not in voice chat with me, if they were just in chat, people wouldn't send me challenges in time, because by the time that they saw the match end, somebody in my voice already knew the match ended, so they would send me like a challenge. So that
Mm-hmm.
way, so there was like a little bit, I had to be like give people a buffer and remember who played recently and give other people a chance to play and so on.
Mm-hmm. So like as since the lobby system is pretty it's pretty much just like a chat window where you can send requests to people. Might be nice if Fightcade had more of like a room system or something that you could do.
Yeah, like I said, they do have private lobbies that you can invite people to. I haven't tested it, but how I assume it would work is, I would make a lobby and have the link in my Twitch stream for people to join in. Um, but it wasn't too bad. When we picked very active games, a lot of people will just send you challenges because they see a new person and they want to play them and
Mm-hmm.
beat their butt. And I'd have to like make sure somebody sends me a challenge. I need to check in chat. Hey, is this somebody from chat or not, or is this just a random person? Because we want to prioritize playing people who were watching the stream and who want to take part.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So the whole point of Deckcember is getting to try a whole lot of different games. Um, and so you got quite a list you went through. Do you want to like? Are there specific standouts you want to talk about? Do you want to hit the whole list first and then delve into the ones that
I
felt
think
noteworthy?
I think we can like just go through the list, and as we hit noteworthy stuff, I can like talk more about it, because some things are just
Okay,
going to be a few sentences.
sure.
But yeah, we started off. We have a few categories of games, so we did a few Capcom games. Um, tried to not do super mainstream stuff. But we started off with X-Men: Children of the Atom. Have you played that one?
Mhm. I've never played that one myself.
Yeah, so that was I guess the thing that started off the entire Marvel thing for Capcom.
Hmm.
And we also played the Marvel superheroes later. They're fairly similar games. I think X-Men Children of the Atom has a bit more interesting characters because it delves a bit deeper into the X-Men uh, universe, whereas Marvel
Hmm.
superheroes picks more safe stuff like, I don't know, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and things like the things we're already used to. Um,
Sure, sure. At the time, more of an interesting choice, perhaps. But by now, if you say Iron Man is in your game, people are not super moved by that.
Yeah. They play very similarly. It's, a six-button Capcom fighter. The big difference is Marvel Superheroes has Power Stones, funnily enough. So that was kind of weird to see the first iteration of that after playing Marvel Infinite Wii U last month. Um,
Hmm.
and how they work is they drop on the map while you're fighting, and then when you pick it up, whichever the I think the oldest one you have on you, that's the one you can actually activate. But if your opponent hits you hard enough while you have gems on you, then you will drop those gems and they can pick it up. And each gem has a different ability. Like Time Stone makes you faster. There's one of the stones has you gets the infinite super meter. One has you heal. The other gives you projectiles. It's very sound effects are very similar to Marvel Infinite, although this one is a 1v1 fighter, so there's nothing interacting with your partner.
Well, in Marvel Infinite, a lot of them felt bad. I guess is just the word I'm going to use. Do you feel like the implementation was more like fun here?
Yeah, I think it they felt more meaningful, especially because you could go through all of them in a single match as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, you weren't limited to the one that you started with.
yeah, and it didn't feel like this is the core of the system. It felt more like God, when we played TMNT for the NES, and you had that ball that drops and you can pick up and throw the opponent, it kind of felt like that. It kind of felt just like stuff is being thrown on the field and you have to grab it
Gotcha.
because you want the
Gotcha.
advantage.
Though in that game, you just ignore it and suplex over and over, as I recall.
Yeah. But yeah, I played the Wolverine in both of those. Pretty fun character, pretty safe. I just want to also mention that none of these games, very few I have played beforehand, and I didn't really practice any of them, so I was effectively blind for almost all of these games.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we went through Vampire Savior, which, for the life of me, I can't remember which one that is. I think that's the third one because there's four of them and they all have weird names.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, one of the Darkstalkers games.
Yes. That one I was kind of familiar with because I used to play Darkstalkers before. So I played the Bishamon. I really like that game, but going back to it, the inputs are way too strict. I don't remember the last time I played a game where doing a DP was that difficult. Like, it was ridiculous, and I had to check with other people, and yeah, they also had just problems with doing basic inputs, and it wasn't lag or anything, it's just the input detection was very strict. Like, it was more strict than the new Sam show.
Interesting. Yeah, I've had a thing recently. I have a friend who has barely played any fighting games, and I'm about to try and get them into fighting games, and we were talking about what we would have them play. And it was like, "Oh, like you have a copy of like the new like KOF 2002 with like GGPO. That would be great." And I'm like, those old KOFs, the input code's really brutal. I don't think that's probably a good start, actually.
Yeah, no, I can agree. This one, I didn't even remember the input code being this strict in Darkstalkers, but I guess it was.
Maybe it was a specific version of it, or is that just a Darkstalkers thing?
Maybe I genuinely don't know. Like, I assume people who are used to the game already know how to play around the input, but like bouncing between all these games I've played, it stood out. But other than that, it's a great game. I hope Capcom finds a studio that will revive it while they finance it, rather than them reviving it themselves. But we'll see.
Yeah, let like Capcom lend out the IP for your fighting games. I don't want you to make those games anymore. I've lost faith.
Not until we see Street Fighter 6. But yeah, speaking of Street Fighter, we play Street Fighter Alpha 3. Again, I still really like Street Fighter Alpha 3. It's really good. I think we did an episode on that, so I won't delve too deep. I did play Dan. I had a lot of fun, as I do playing Dan, so that was good.
I think we might have done on Alpha 2. I think we specifically avoided doing Alpha 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, I was told that the Alpha 3 had the issue of, V Groove being broken beyond belief.
Yeah.
But if you ignore that, I think it is a very good Street Fighter. It plays very smooth. It doesn't play like a bad Street Fighter game, because I'm not super into Street Fighter, as I've voiced again in the past, but I think Alpha handles just the right speed for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And by popular request, we also did the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which was surprisingly really good. Do you watch JoJo at all?
I have watched some JoJo's. The thing is, every season is like a new thing, basically. So I don't think I've watched the one. I think the one that is not. Maybe it's Stardust Crusaders or something. I haven't watched the one that the game is about.
Yeah, I haven't seen any JoJo games. I only know about like Jotaro and Zavardo and all those memes.
All the memes, yeah.
Yeah.
Road Roller and all that.
Yeah. So I played. I bounced around a few characters until I found one I liked, and I played some lady assassin who uses magnetism to fight people and charges up with electric sockets. So her entire gimmick is you set an electric socket, and then the opponent, if they hit that electric socket, your character powers up by one level, and that makes all your moves more powerful. So she was some kind of like weird zoner that throws cutlery and electricity and um, all sorts of things at you. That was a lot of fun, and the characters in general seemed to be a lot of fun. Somebody tried to cheese me with Pet Shop, but I won, so that felt good.
Nice.
For those who don't know, the one notorious thing about the game is that there's a character, a bird called Pet Shop, that is so broken that I believe it is banned in every single tournament of the game.
But not banned in Fightcade. So
Nope, nope. I do wonder how many people just, play Pet Shop on Fightcade because it's unregulated.
I mean, I don't. I feel like probably there are no consequences for just like dropping out of a game.
Mm-hmm.
If you make a habit of that, people are going to load in, see you pick Pet Shop, and just close the game. You're just not going to get any fights.
Yeah. But that was all from the Capcom side. We did a few SNK games. We did Real Bout Fatal Fury 2, which everyone ended up being surprised by because it was really, really good. How familiar are you with Fatal Fury and Fatal Fury 2?
I played a lot of Fatal Fury Special back in the day, and I thought it fucking ruled. Which is, not. It's 2 would be the game right after Special. So I can only imagine it's even better. Yeah, I think Fatal Fury is slept on these days. Fatal Fury is great.
Yeah, we so this is specifically the version that's called as a Real Bout Fatal Fury 2, which is, I guess, the equivalent of Ultra Street Fighter or whatever. I think it's like the third iteration. It plays really well, very smooth. The 2-lane system really good. Instead of having you jump between 2 lanes, the back lane is kind of the backup lane. So you basically hide in the second lane, and then when you jump in, you can jump in with a high or low attack, or you can like just jump in and block, and the opponent can kick you from the back lane at any point as well with a push-up button. So it doesn't feel, like the original Fatal Fury or Guilty Gear Asuka, where it's just like hopping between lanes in an annoying way. It feels just more like a different avenue for your defense.
Nice.
Really good, like it a lot. This is definitely very high on the list of I will play this game after Deckember a lot. Then we did Last Blade 2. I don't think we talked about Last Blade 2 too much.
No, I think we've mentioned it, but we haven't, it's not like we've ever played it together or anything. I think most of our conversation around it was around our episode on Capcom vs. SNK 2, because I gushed about Hibiki, who's going to be in Sam Showdown now. What's up?
Yeah, and you also mentioned that you haven't actually played Last Blade 2, you only played Hibiki a lot.
Right, correct.
Yeah. Last Blade 2, I think it's pretty good. I play it a lot not a lot as a kid, but I played it as a kid. But I came into it fairly blind now because I forgot everything. I forgot how good the presentation of that game is because, the music, the round announcements, the arenas, it all just feels very, very authentic. Like Samurai Showdown is a bit, brutal and has, the traditional Japanese mood, but it's still kind of not modernized, but still feels kind of, how can I say it, contemporary, whereas this, when you play it feels like an old movie. And I like it a lot. Definitely also something I will go back to play. And one of the reasons I played it the other day was I was feeling in the mood to play Samurai Showdown after the Hibiki announcement, but then I remembered, oh shit, Samurai Showdown has not great netcode. So I just went and played Last Blade, which is similar enough. But you should try Last Blade. If you like Samusho, I think you'd like Last Blade. And if you like Hibiki, you'll like Last Blade, obviously, because she plays fairly similar.
Okay, cool. I will have to check that out then.
Yeah. Ninja Masters, we already talked about that in length. Still pretty good game. Still enjoy it. I think after this Deckember, though, there are some other games that I also enjoy just as much. So I don't think it's gonna take a back seat, but I definitely want to experiment with a few more older games.
You don't. I mean, you don't want to get like there's so much possibility space out there. You don't want to get overly stuck on one thing.
Yeah. Well, until Guilty Gear Strive releases, then I'm stuck on that forever.
It's not going to be very good.
We'll see about that. We might make an episode on it.
I bet we will make an episode on it. I hold to my claim. I don't think it's going to be very good.
Okay.
But
so we did some non-fighting games as well. So we did puzzle episodes in the past. So we did Magical Drop 3. We did not do Money Puzzle Exchanger this year. That will be next year probably.
Money Puzzle Exchanger is just a little too brutal. People would have cried.
It takes a lot of brain power. So Ghost Lop, have you heard of that ever?
No, I assumed you typoed and you meant to type Ghost Loop.
No. So Ghost Lop is a unreleased game. It's a prototype from the same studio. It's from Data East, the same studio that did Magical Drop, and
Data East rules.
Yeah, the reason it wasn't released was because they went bankrupt in the middle of development. But the prototype was out, and how it works is it plays a lot like Bust a Move, except you have two colors on the screen. You have blue and orange ghosts. They're like spheres that you have to break, and your character at the bottom acts kind of like an Arkanoid paddle, where you throw a ball and you can change the color of the ball midair between orange and blue, and when it collides with the correct color of the sphere, it destroys it, and then anything that's hanging underneath the orbs you destroyed falls down and sends garbage to your opponent. For a unreleased prototype game, it is the core game is extremely good. Like, it plays really, really well, and I feel it's like a tragedy that it never got released, because if as a prototype it plays this well, I can only imagine how good it would have been as a full game.
Yeah, Data East is a really really great. Like, they're responsible for some really amazing games. They made Windjammers and stuff. They were very talented. It's a bummer that they didn't get to finish this.
Yeah, I recommend trying it out. I think you might like it. We were all pretty surprised by it.
Definitely.
So we tried Poochie Carrot, which is essentially Arkanoid versus mode. Didn't like that one at all. Felt more like you were playing against yourself than the other opponent. If you want to know what the gameplay is, it is literally like Arkanoid versus mode with anime.
Okay, so it's good.
Well, it's been better than Arkanoid, yes. And we played the Twinkle Star Sprites. I think you might be familiar with this one.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a versus shmup. Very, very good. Very hectic. If you like shoot 'em ups and you like being competitive, this is 100% up your alley, probably. We should do some Twinkle Star Sprites. It's a really good game.
I'm so bad at shmups. I mean, I'm down. I'm okay to lose at things. It's fine, but that's what will happen.
Well, look, the only way to get better at shmups is to play shmups.
That's what they say, but it hasn't happened yet.
And yeah, then we played a bunch of miscellaneous fighting games. We did Asura Blade and Asura Buster. Do those names ring a bell to you?
No, they do not.
So it's kind of difficult to explain what makes them stand out. They're very straightforward fighting games. There's 3 buttons on them, and you have your standard issue super mirror and stuff. There's nothing really that stands out in terms of how it plays. It's fine. It's pretty neat. But it's very difficult to like recommend. Like, there's no like selling pitch. There's no like last plate. Like, oh yeah, it's like Authentic Samurai, or Real Battle Fatal Fury. Like, oh yeah, it's very technical. It's more just like, yeah, it's a pretty easy to get into anime fighting game, and it has a bunch of different characters. Although it has one terrible mechanic in the second game, which is Buster, where if somebody KOs you, you can press all three buttons, and you will have a last stand where you have a timer to kill the other opponent that just downed you, and you can win the round instead.
What? And are you if you take another hit, do you immediately fall down?
Yes,
or?
yes. You take one hit and you immediately fall down.
Hmm.
But there's no requirement on how to. You can do it like every round if you want to.
That's really obnoxious.
It is. It's really obnoxious, and whenever people did, I was like, "Oh God, we're doing this again."
I note that from Astra Blade to Astra Buster, the character Footy didn't make the cut. Didn't make the sequel.
Which is a shame because she's fucking busted in Blade. Probably why they cut her and made 2 characters of it.
Not because her name is Footy?
No.
Okay.
Oh, look, she's a Chun-Li. That's what she's called like that. She just kicks a lot.
Oh, yeah. She's got her disciple in the sequel, Chen Mao. Got it. Okay. Sure.
Yeah. I recommend people like to just try it out because it's not a complicated fighting game. And it has some good music and presentation. A lot of the characters remind me a bit of Guilty Gear characters, so much so that I had to check when the first Guilty Gear was released. They were apparently released the same time, so it's just a coincidence. But it's very like 90s fighting anime aesthetic.
Sure. All right. That sounds worth taking a look at.
Tried Killer Instinct, much to my dismay. Like I mentioned, the Super Nintendo netcode isn't all that great. I really don't like the old Killer Instinct. I think it's boring as hell.
Yeah, if maybe we should do an episode on the new Killer Instinct at some point. That game's pretty great.
The new Killer Instinct is fucking fantastic. I really like that game.
Mm-hmm.
Old Killer Instinct, not so much. Cardinal's Revenge. Have you heard of this game?
Oh yes.
It is essentially Street Fighter. Like, it is unapologetically just Street Fighter reskinned with one new mechanic. And that is every character has a accessory, and if you deal enough damage to that part where the accessory is, so like whether it's their head, their chest, or their legs, if you do enough damage to that body part, the accessory breaks and they're stunned. Which means that for the rest of that round, you can't stun them again after that accessory has already been broken. That's the only thing they have that's different. Other than that, I just played the Guile and made everybody hate the game.
My only fun fact about Karnov's Revenge is it is the sequel to Fighter's History, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Fighter's History, a game that Capcom, it was another Data East game, and Capcom sued them, saying it was too similar to Street Fighter 2, and they needed to take it off the market. And Data East went into this is sort of a shortened, cartoonish version, but basically went into the courtroom, showed some footage of Street Fighter 2, and then showed Karate Champ and said basically, case closed. And yeah, they won the case. They're like, yeah, you didn't invent people fighting.
If Fighter's History is too similar to Street Fighter, and apparently this one is a bit more different, then I can't even imagine how similar Fighter's History was, because this felt literally like Street Fighter to me. I was doing Street Fighter inputs, and just like, oh, this is the Guile. Does he have the flash kick? Does he have the sonic boom? Yep, okay, this works.
I mean, you can imagine after that, once you have that lawsuit where someone sues you and says your game is too similar to theirs and you win it, there are 2 possibilities. One is you say with your next game, okay, let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Or the other is, fuck it, man, we won that lawsuit. Let's go in.
Yeah, ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, I didn't like that game that much. Sadly. I don't know. I know a lot of people do like it, but to me it just feels like playing more Street Fighter 2. That's kind of my main issue with it.
I haven't touched it in a long time. I bet it doesn't feel. I mean, I've turned on Street Fighter 2. Maybe I would turn on this.
Yeah. I'm gonna try Dankuga, which is I'm gonna probably get this wrong. It is the unreleased sequel to Kaiser Knuckle, a Taito fighting game, which is most infamous for having one of the hardest end game bosses fighting games of all time, the general. So much so that there is something on the internet called the General Challenge, where people try to, beat the general legit.
Mm-hmm.
That one I did. So that one I didn't like at first, but then it grew on me during the stream. Um, there's some weird things about it. Like, it has this thing where there's constantly a meter growing on the side, where when that meter is full, your next attack that lands like deals more damage, and it's not something you can control. It's very similar to, how like how MK11 has those, like, not like X-ray moves, but those like big moves that like zoom in when you counter hit.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, except you can see the meter at all times, and like you can kind of tell, okay, now I have access to this thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't like it at first because I think I picked the wrong characters, but when I ended up picking, a character whose moves I had, because I wasn't looking up any move list for this, so I just picked the Ryu or the Shoto, and managed to wrap my head around it quickly. It plays fairly well. I even say it plays surprisingly well. It's another one of those games where people go, "Oh yeah, this is like a hidden gem, a la Karnov or Jackie Chan or whatever old weird games people dig out." But I out of all of those games, I think this is the only one where I actually agree with that. Like, yeah, this actually plays fairly decently.
Well,
So
that
that's
doesn't
one.
say good things about the next game on our list, does
No.
it?
Yeah, so I recommend Dakuga. I think you and I should try it. I think you might enjoy it.
All
Um,
right.
but yeah, Jackie Chan Fists of Fire. This was the first time I've ever played it. I have heard so much about it because it's the meme fighting game. It's the one that's like, oh yeah, this is actually so good. Um, to me, I ended up understanding it in the end, but I don't like it at all. To me,
Mm.
it feels like this is an over the top game that's accidentally over the top, and I would rather just play Ultra Fight the Kyanta if I wanted to play something absurd.
Yeah, I understand. Like, I think that this is a game that gained its reputation back in sort of like the dead period of fighting games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where people were going back and playing old fighting games through emulators and stuff and being like, "Whoa, check this out." But now that the fighting game community is sort of and developers are like alive again and have been for a while, you can just get developers doing weird things on purpose,
Yeah,
and that's cool.
yeah. I didn't like this at all. Which I guess is blasphemy for a lot of people. It's just I like over the top fighting games, and I feel like this one is just halfway over the top. If I was starved for fighting games and I came across this, yeah, I'll probably like it. But as you say, there's so much better stuff, including the ridiculously broken games that are intentionally ridiculously broken.
Hmm.
Um, I'd
You know,
rather
this year,
play.
this year, Ultra Fight to Count 2 got a new character.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, not a knee is her name. I haven't played with her, but yeah,
I
totally.
assume she does not have a knee move.
Probably not.
Okay.
Load it up, find out what memes are built into that game. So
Yeah. And then the last thing worth mentioning, Waku Waku 7. Are you familiar with this one? This one even has a Switch release.
yeah, Waku Waku 7 is a classic.
Yeah. I think it's pretty nice. Wasn't super into it, but like it has a less interesting cast than Evil Zone to me, because Evil Zone is the same shtick of, oh, we just have characters that are different genres of anime. I think the
Hmm.
characters are less interesting in Waku Waku than Evil Zone, but Waku Waku just plays infinitely better because it's not capped at 30 FPS.
Well, the thing I like about Waku Waku 7 is that like they're all very direct. Like, it's not just like, oh, we're doing this genre, which they are, but they're also like very specifically parroting specific like anime and characters, right?
Yeah, like JoJo and Totoro and stuff like that.
And New Dominion Tank Police, and yeah.
Yeah. But like if I visit someone and they were like, "Hey, you want to play some Waku Waku?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" if that's the thing you have loaded up, why not?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, the titular Waku Waku 7 are 7 Waku Waku balls that will grant wishes, so they're really not. They're really just here to fuck around.
Yeah, yeah. Shame they never made a Waku Waku 8.
I mean, you can't add an 8th Dragon Ball. I mean, Waku Waku ball.
I
That's
mean,
illegal.
they made a Super Dragon Balls and Dragon Ball Z. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
No, what they need to do is they need to pull a Square Enix and do for a really high res Waku Waku 7 remake.
that was or Waku Waku 7-2.
I'd be here for 7 too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically, we went through a lot, on average 2 games per day, and
Mm-hmm.
two what was it, 10 streams that month.
So it seems like maybe for next year, for next Deckcember, this year I guess. I'm dying. It seems like probably going to stick with Fightcade. Do you want to look into the private lobbies thing, maybe?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna look into that a bit more, but we're definitely sticking to Fightcade because it seemed to work best for me, it worked best for people watching and wanting to play, and it definitely felt like people had the most fun because they could participate as opposed to, previous years where a lot of them could just watch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping, I have the secret hope that Fightcade will release an update that lets them do PS1 games with rollback somehow. I don't know how technically feasible that is, but if that ever happens, that will open up so many fighting games, both good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
It will be so good.
Honestly, I did a stream yesterday playing a bunch of PS2 games, and you know what I was reminded of? A fight. This is not. This is a versus mode, and I'm gonna say it's a fighting game. It's sick. The versus in Tenchu Wrath of Heaven.
I did not know that had a versus mode.
Yeah, not only does it have a versus mode, the versus mode is like you are both like rival ninjas and you're trying to kill each other, but like there are guards and stuff on the level, and you could like you're trying to like kill the other person without being spotted by the guards. And if you get spotted by the guards, they can hurt you, but also you can kill them and use their like equipment to help fight the other player. It's really cool.
That sounds pretty badass. That's why hasn't anybody remade that?
Because the studio that made it went down. Though they did actually, since you mentioned it, last week there was an announcement like the studio, like whoever has the rights for Tenchu, put out an interview being like, we're thinking about re-releasing some Tenchu stuff. Like, yes, please do. Those games own.
Yeah. Or at least release that versus mode because that sounds really good. That's basically
Yeah.
PvP with the environment messing up. I mean, people are experimenting with that now because I think it's not a fighting game or a action game or anything, but Hunt Showdown, that's
Mm-hmm.
basically that, where it's like 2 teams of players versus each other while there's, the environment. But I feel like doing that in a ninja format where like stealth is a big priority is a bit cooler.
Yeah, it's great. I played a lot of that when I was younger. So.
Nice. Could also do Siphon Filter versus mode.
Oh.
If they added, and man, if they added if they had PS1 support and I could play Siphon Filter 2 with rollback and versus mode, that would be the bee's knees.
I'll take your word for it. I was never, I played a lot of the PSP Siphon Filter, but that was about it.
The versus mode was if you had a console and you wanted to play like a shooter in split screen, it was a pretty good option if you didn't have GoldenEye, I guess.
Wow, that's a lot of qualifiers there, Mio.
Yeah.
So, I have a pitch for you.
Sure.
Deck January. No, Deckember
No.
works because you have the time off. It's just a bummer for me because increasingly, as Deckember happens, I am, as a retail worker, too busy to drop by, and it's a bummer because I love Deckember, but the needs of few cannot succeed the needs of the many.
We will figure something out. Maybe there needs to be something like, I don't know, Beat 'em Uptober or something like that.
Sure. That sounds Puzzle-uary. Puzzle lie. All right, back to the drawing board with these names. But I'm glad Deckember is hitting a groove. You're not having to experiment with completely new formats every year. You found one that just works.
Yep, this is definitely staying for a long time.
And Fightcade keeps adding new games over time, so you keep having new possibilities to explore until they stop making video games, which will be a bummer. But
well, hopefully they don't stop making video games, and hopefully they don't stop making Fightcade stuff.
Hopefully.
Where can people find you, Six?
So if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Sixdettmar, SIXDETTMAR, and you can find my work at scanlinemedia.com or patreon.com/scanlinemedia. I do a lot of podcasts.
And you can find me at twitch.tv/RealSovietBear and twitter.com/MDKII, that's MDK Roman numerals 2.
Excellent. You do a lot of streaming of fighting games on there too. So, and also just other, I don't want to say I had a conversation yesterday with some friends about whether the PS2 really counts as retro.
Yes, it does.
It does. I know, but it doesn't feel right. I don't like saying
as far as I streamed a PS3 game under the retro category on Twitch after the PS5
You're
release.
Okay,
nobody can stop me.
What PS3 game?
The launch day Resistance.
Okay, that's retro. you got me there.
It looked like a PS2 game, so I'd say it's retro.
All right, fair enough. But friends and folks, and thank you for joining us. Look into Fightcade yourself if you're wondering about playing some old fighting games. And until next time, peace out.
Bye bye.